Hello and welcome to Feminist Frequency's Star Trek podcast. We're back with season 3 of Star Trek Discovery. I'm your host, Anita Sarkeesian, and joining me 930 years into the future is Ebony Adams.
Also known as Book.
I don't know.
You want to date me. Get over it.
I mean...
You do. Let's talk about it in the episode.
yeah. I need a minute to let all of that digest. I mean, you're the one that sends me text messages about how we can make out now that we're both COVID-free.
Text messages, plural. I sent you one that said we can now tongue kiss. Don't get it twisted, America. I sent her one, and she turned me down. So I don't go begging people to tongue kiss me. You snooze, you lose.
It's true. I lost my window. Mm-hmm. You all missed us, didn't you?
I know y'all did.
It's been a while. We had Picard, and It's been a while since Picard, but getting back into Discovery, I was like, oh shit, right? This show. Anyways, before we get into all that, just want to update you all on what you can expect this season. So like with Star Trek Picard, we're going to be discussing 2 episodes at a time. So it'll go season premiere, solo episode, and then 2 episodes all the way down to the finale, which will be its own episode as well. A little bit of sad news. Please direct your hate mail to Ebony Aster.
That's right.
Ebony Aster on Twitter.
You know I love it.
Ebony will only be joining us on the first and last episode this season because she's so busy.
Listen, y'all, I have a lot of cosplay sewing to get done. And we have a lot of new costumes this season that I'm going to be working on.
It's true. But I did convince her to join us for these 2 episodes, which I think are kind of the most important ones, beginning, ending your reactions. And also, I have secured guests for every other episode. We're going to have 2 guests on, some old favorites, some new folks, and it'll be great. So be sure to continue tuning in because it won't just be me pretending like I know anything about Star Trek. I promise. It'll be people
Please tell me that you have Steve Shives coming on again to wipe the floor with you with your lack of Star Trek knowledge.
Hell yeah. Can I tell y'all a little secret that Steve shared with me?
Yes.
He asked me to be on a show that he's doing coming into the future. And then at the end of it, he's like, just for full disclosure, I asked Ebony first. And I was like, yeah, I would have too. I mean, totally fine.
Listen, I don't know why people invite me on their podcast because I'm ready to cut up at a moment's notice. So if you care about your audience, you will not have me on. Foolishly, Steve, who I thought was a professional, emailed me and I was like, yo, yes, of course. Tell me the day and time. I can't wait.
I can't wait to watch Ebony hold her own
Act a fool
with Mr. Steve Shives. Yeah, it'll be great.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Now, I have one more piece of news. If you are fans of Feminist Frequency Radio, you'll know that we have a freak out, and I would just like to do my freak out right now on this podcast where we don't have freakouts. You follow? You're following?
Yes.
Ebony sent me a gift, and it was a Star Trek Discovery face mask.
Yes, you should take a picture and put it up on your Instagrams.
I will. I should do that. It was very cute and very thoughtful and sweet and unexpected. Thank you,
And
Ebony.
it was hand sewn by a friend of the podcast, Francine, who was on a special episode, I think, in season 1. I can't remember.
We gotta get her back on.
I know, she's the best. She's the best.
All right. Okay, I can't wait to talk about this episode.
Oh, me too.
All right. That Hope Is You, Part 1, is the title of the first episode of Season 3. Ebony, can you give us our CBS stolen description?
Yeah, I sure can. Arriving 930 years in the future. Shut up. Arriving 930 years in the future, Burnham navigates a galaxy. Okay. This is how it's going to go this season, y'all.
God,
this is why I can't be on every episode. Okay.
This is the best.
Arriving 930 years in the future, Burnham navigates a galaxy she no longer recognizes while searching for the rest of the USS Discovery crew.
It was one sentence, Ebony.
And I fucked it up. Anita was like, hey, can you do the recap? It's only 1 sentence. And I was like, yeah, I got you, girl. You have to do it 4 times. Anita, can I admit something? Because I know that you're already judging me, so this will just be one more thing. When I turned on this episode and they did the previously on Discovery, Thank God they did. I had not remembered a single goddamn thing that happened in season 2. I was straight up just like, oh yeah, that happened. Oh right, Tig Notaro was in that too. Oh cool. Tight. Like it was exciting to me because it's been so long since season 2. I had literally forgotten everything that occurred. I forgot Spock showed up. I was just like, what? Oh yes, okay. In the future, yes, time travel, right? Okay. So I needed to be situated.
I forgot
everything.
I was like, oh my God, can you give me a longer recap? Because I don't really even remember what's going on with the recap.
Too.
Like I forgot about the future and then the wingsuit and then the parents. Like what?
And I think part of it is that, I was confusing little bits of Star Trek Picard with Discovery. So it took me a minute to shift back into Discovery mode. But you know what? I'm happy to be here. It's clearly the show is going to be just as fucking Boogle House as it has been for the past 2 seasons. They were just like, oh no, should we tone it down a little bit? No, we're going to go full tilt boogie.
I love it.
Consistently.
I also had that same experience where I for the first 20 minutes, I kept thinking about Picard things and was like, wait, that's not even the same show. I'm so confused. There are 2 Star Trek shows happening at the same time, y'all. Like our brains have never had this experience.
Well, and Star Trek Lower Decks.
Star Trek Lower Decks. Yeah.
Like it's just a plethora of Star Trek right now.
We are in a bounty of goodness.
Top line, Anita, before we get into it. Did you like the episode?
I fucking loved it.
Okay, good, because I did too.
You did like it.
I did.
Okay.
I mean, there's obviously stuff that I was like, side eye sucking my teeth at. But for the most part, I was engaged throughout the whole thing. I was not bored. Loved the fact that the future, peopled with folks of color. I was so into it. And yeah, I was just like, yeah, this actually looks like a plot arc for the season that I am down with. I'm really interested in. So yeah, I'm excited for this season.
I loved this episode. Like I ended it and I tried really hard not to call you Ebony and be like, oh my God, can we talk about this right now, please?
Yeah.
Because I had so much fun with it. And Sonequa Martin Green really shined. Like,
oh yeah.
I know that I've talked a little bit of shit about her acting here and there, but she really, in this episode, I was like, damn, this is good. You're good. Yeah. This is great. And not just when she's high as fuck, which was also delightful, but just the whole episode, I was just so taken with her. The nuance that she brought, her performance and her facial expressions were so perfectly aligned with how I would imagine she felt in this moment. Yeah. Right? She's not freaking out, but she's freaking out. And she's too much of a Vulcan and she's too much of a Starfleet officer to to make that freak out physical, but you could see it all over her body language. And I was she just killed it.
Oh, absolutely. And, the vulnerability that she shows once, she's come across Book and they fought and she's like, I have to trust something or someone, please help me. Oh, just a gut punch,
it killed me.
So good. And then that scene with her and Sahil later in the episode, you just have 2 actors fucking bringing it in that moment. I was moved, y'all. I felt real human emotion.
Oh, at the end. Yes. Yeah. So I was like, we get a shot of 2 people at the beginning, 2 different new characters, and they're both men of color. And I was like, damn, this is dope. I was so excited. And then also, I was very pleasantly surprised to see in this season on, which we will definitely get to at the end of this episode, but that Book isn't coming and going. Book is a part of the season, and I have a new Star Trek boyfriend.
Oh,
because
I'm fully into it. Yeah. And clearly going to be important. He was in the credits, his name is right up there. It's not special guest for this episode. He is in it. And I think someone who matches Burnham's intensity so well. And I mean, come on, it's clearly season 1, we had Tyler. Season 2, we had Spock. They're going to give you some hot action man style every season. But I'm real pleased with the choice this season. He just seems like a really compelling character.
Yes. I think that Star Trek Discovery has been uneven at the best of times, right? That season 1 was like a dumpster fire of doom. Season 2 had some episodes that I really liked, but it also, could be a little rough. I feel like this first episode was fucking stellar. I really, really liked it, but it's not enough for me to trust the rest of the season, right? Like the show has not like brought it for me yet in a consistent way where I'm just like excited and elated, but I because of what Star Trek means to me and because of like our engagement with it, like I'm here to hope for it at least, and same with Picard, right? Like Picard was really uneven. And so like I'm going to try and be in the present with Discovery and really just be like, okay, what is this episode bringing? What does this like do for us? Yeah.
I think part of the problem for us, it is a problem. For other people, it might be a strength. But part of the issue is that unlike, a film, for instance, with a singular director, when you have a TV show, you've got multiple directors. And although they're all sort of like, putting shoulders to the plow to execute what is supposed to be kind of a singular vision, you definitely see the difference that like different creative folks take with the material, what they do, the kind of performances they draw out in individual episodes, the things they choose to highlight or not spend as much time focusing on given, the material that they're working with. So the person who directed this first episode, Olatunde Osunsami, has also done work, I think for Discovery, but also for Picard, Discovery, and was executive producer for Discovery. And so I think like this is someone who clearly knows the material, knows what they're trying to do, and is comfortable demonstrating kind of the evolution of the show and a character like Burnham. So I, like you, I'm cautiously optimistic given the strong start that we got here. Like I just think this is going to be good. Can we talk about some of the stuff that I loved but was nevertheless cracking me up?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, from the very beginning, that bird alarm clock, I was like, I want a little bird.
I love it.
That is a clock. I don't want it to be a hologram. I want a little bird hopping around my bedside table with the time. Absolutely right.
Like the horror nightmare show of your bird alarm clock is that like it eventually starts just like pecking your eyeballs out, trying to wake you up.
Okay, you know what? Why did you have to take it to the bad place? I'm on a little bird alarm clock. I also love, and this is standard, if you put the word space in front of anything in shows like this, it just makes it 1000% funnier. So when Book talked about being space broke, I rolled off my couch. Okay? Like it was like this episode had been written specifically for me. Just so good.
It was. I made a couple calls, Ebony. That was for you. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Can we talk?
Okay, wait, hold on. Okay. Go. I have a whole section of future stuff that I noted. Okay, so cool. Go. Like, okay, so the virtual bird alarm clock thing I was here for. Also the dissolving bed in that scene.
Yep.
Like, okay, do we like this future? The dissolving bed, the like auto wash thing. Were you into it?
No, and I'll tell you why. Excuse me. Throughout this episode, and I suspect we'll be getting it throughout the season, there's a real difficulty with, for me anyway, surrendering to the vision of like the future that is presented here, because like design wise, I am meant to be able to differentiate the look of the time period that Burnham is normally in Discovery times, and then 3188, the new time period that she's in, right? But for me, a woman in 2020, it all just looks futuristic, right? So I'm interested in the ways that the designers, the costumers, etc., have chosen to model what is supposed to be 1,000 years beyond Burnham's time. And they have done it in a way that we've seen before, which is this very like, white, clean surfaces, minimalist Scandinavian design. It's meant to represent the future. And I was just like, why is it that this is the kind of like visual language we always employ when something is meant to be somewhat familiar, but is also meant to demonstrate that like we've achieved a certain level of technological superiority? Like it always
like
kind of looks the same.
Yeah, it's like Apple on steroids. Like every dystopian future, it looks like bar. Corporate. Yeah, it's exactly it, right? Yeah, I'm interested in that. Also, the like. The contrast between Blade Runner City, right? Where you're like, none of this, like, it is a step up in the Star Trek world from like shiny blankets. Like, you know, they used to just use satin blankets and that was the future or whatever. But, you know, we have a lot more like filmmaking ability just at our disposal for these sorts of things. So like, was that supposed to be a contrast between like that scene is in like Federation time, like that's a Federation ship, right? And it's a Federation ship that like was not populated like less than 100 years ago. So like that is also old in some ways. And then you have a Book's ship, which looks incredible for someone who's like fucking roughing it. Right. You know, like it looked, I was like, this is roughing it. Like, okay, cool. And then you go to the town where, you know, the what do they call him?
A courier?
A courier. Thank you. Where like the couriers go to get jobs, which is supposed to be, I'm guessing, you know, like not necessarily underground, but kind of illicit in some ways. And so like the town looked like Blade Runner. That place looked like, you know, it was all very clean. In some ways. Like I wasn't necessarily sure if they were drawing visual contrast with the visions of the future, if there were class discussions that were going on here, because that's what it felt like it was supposed to be doing, but didn't quite get there.
Yeah, I mean, when you say that it looks like Blade Runner, you mean like the kind of stylized urban environment, right? Like, because I mean, Blade Runner is famously like unclean at the city level.
The shot when they like first enter, like when they first see the city, and like, you know, things are flying or whatever. I was just like, oh, Blade Runner. And not that like, you know, lots and lots of like, lots and lots of media have, and I don't want to use the word imitated, but built off of the Blade Runner aesthetic, but it's the most famous of it, right? So I just immediately went to, oh, that's what this is. Yeah. But it wasn't as gritty. Like it wasn't as gritty. It wasn't as appropriative. Like it wasn't appropriating Asian culture for like, you know, the benefit of white people.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like if I were Ridley Scott, I would be demanding residuals from every person who has, you know, directed a science fiction movie since 1979. Because like the influence of Alien and the xenomorphs, and then as you say, like Blade Runner and this kind of vision of a science fictional city, like absolutely, you know, Ridley Scott was at the helm of both of those films. But going back to like our visual language for the future, the other thing that was killing me was when Book tells Burnham, like, cover yourself in this so you don't look like a relic or whatever. And I'm like, Book, you are literally wearing like a leather coat. How are we supposed to differentiate visually between what Burnham is wearing and what you're wearing? And then like, you know, Sahil is wearing a suit. And I'm like, this looks the same. Like you mean to tell me that in the year 3188, men are still dressing a certain way, and it's a very Western style of dress, right? Like they're not wearing kurtas or something, right? Which they could be. There's no reason why they couldn't be. But there's something about what Burnham is wearing that marks her as, you know, a throwback. It was killing me. Just this kind of refusal to really take chances with men's dress when it comes to like future styling. Basically, you're always going to get some version of like, you know, kind of hyper masculine or businessman masculine, like, you know, clothing. But hey, there's no reason why you couldn't be wearing like a long tunic and, you know, skirt kind of thing. But that's never what we're going to get.
Right. I agree with you completely. I read the scene where he's like, throw this on, and they're walking in like this deserted area. This that's another thing, is that they crash land on what looks like a desolate planet, and then they walk to this bustling city. Like it just the tension between those two environments that you could literally walk to felt a little jarring to me, but whatever. I'm not going to fault it for that. But that scene where they're walking, I got the sense that he was just talking about the Starfleet insignia, the like the comm badge. which, you know, like it wasn't just that, but it was a way to try and have that conversation. I was wondering why he wasn't more like, why are you playing with toys? Like, why are you dressed up? Like, is it Halloween? Right. As opposed to like, it was just, I know that it wasn't the point of the episode and they couldn't spend a lot of like script time on it, but it was like, to him, she looked like she was dressing up in a costume.
Yeah, it would be as if someone showed up and they were dressed like a medieval European knight, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, she's literally from 1,000 years in the past. So when she pulls the phaser on him and he's like, blah, blah, an antique, I'm like, what? There should be a little bit more kind of like sense of what the fuck is happening here? Why are you dressed that way? Like space Amish or something. No one dresses that way anymore. The Federation is dead. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree completely. I would have loved a little more experimentation with the clothing and stuff like that too. But
yeah. Did you love the Maine Coon cat? His cat?
Grudge?
Yeah, I absolutely. I hope we see Grudge more.
It was just totally like hot dude thing. Like it was like what?
I'm into
like it was so funny because you have this fucking smoking hot dude that's like mysterious and like whatever,
and yet sensitive.
And then he pulls up this giant cat and he's like, "You got a problem with my cat?" And you're just like, "Are you the internet?" Like what?
Yeah.
The fuck?
No, it was composed to meet my needs, and then when he's like, you know, praying and chanting and bringing up like the space first aid kit from the water. And then he's talking to the space slug and he's named her Molly and whatever. I was just like, there's literally nothing else this guy could do to make me love him more. You know, from the very beginning I'm in.
Let's talk about this.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about Cleveland Booker and his magics. So there is an element of like magical Negro trope happening here. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
I'm going to see how it plays out. You know, my first moment of like, excuse me, mental pushback was not necessarily the his occupying of like a magical Negro trope, because what's important about that, or one of the things that's important about that, is that it's one of the few positions that Black people get to occupy in our media, you know, but because we also have Burnham there as a different sort of figure, it sort of lessens the sting. Also, he seems more complicated. He is not there to deliver explication or, you know, do the emotional labor for a main white character. So I wasn't as bothered by it. The thing that, and it was just a line, but it kind of pulled me out a little bit, is when, you know, Burnham's like, you know, some of the writing got a little clunky in this, when she was like, how does it feel to feel things all the time, or whatever she said.
She said, what's it like feeling everything? And
yeah,
he
and
says,
he's like, you know, it's a little
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. Right. And then he says, you know, my family are poachers and killers. And so, you know, every once in a while there's someone different, whatever. It's like, okay, just the optics of this are not great for me, you know, because, you know, I immediately was put in mind of like, you know, African poachers and native wildlife, you know, indigenous wildlife on the continent. And so that was the one line that kind of tripped me up. But I'm not saying that was what they were going for. I'm not saying anyone else needed to have that response. It just worked that way for me. But in terms of like magical Negro stuff, like, dude, as long as the chanting has a point, you know, whatever, you and the space slug, I'm going to let it marinate and cook. I'll see how the rest of the season plays out.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, is like, you know, the trope is a problem for a lot of reasons. One of which is it's usually like that character is on screen for a minute to help the main character on their journey. Right. It's like, you know, Matrix, and it's been in a lot of, it is very common. But it felt like you're saying, like, this is a character that's going to be on the show, and that maybe his powers are something that will be like critical to him and his experience. And we learned that, right? Like we do, as you were talking about, like, yes, that writing was clunky, but like, I thought there was something really interesting of like, what is it like to feel everything like uncomfortable? And I don't know. I really liked that. I liked that like idea of, we glamorize this magical notion or this mystical notion of being in touch with everything and living beings and creatures and all of that. But like, he's kind of like, it's too much. Yeah. And I'm holding on as best I can kind of thing is what the sense I got. And it gave him some depth, like as a character. And it also gave us, without being preachy and without like, beating us over the head with it, like it's giving us a little bit about who he is and what does this mean? Because we don't really know what this means, right? Like, yeah, he's in touch with wildlife, but but okay. So what does that mean? Like I'm looking forward to that being uncovered and like, articulated over time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't trust the show to necessarily do that well, but I'm hoping.
I'm hoping too. I have high hopes. I am optimistic for this season.
The comedy in this episode was really good.
All right. Well, I gotta disagree with you a little bit there. After a while, I was like, okay, we get it. Burnham is high. I loved it. Of course,
no, but it's not just that. Oh well, that okay. Burnham getting high and just being like wackadoodle, and also trying not to reveal the things that she needs to reveal. She's just I loved it, Ebony. I loved it so much.
You cornball.
It was so like, we don't get to see her like that very often. The show doesn't get to be playful very often. And I think there was something really refreshing about it. Like the fact that she's so vulnerable, it's like this physical manifestation of her vulnerability of like, she's turning into basically a child at this point that can weirdly is super coordinated and can fight really well still in this state, which doesn't make any sense, but made for a very fun adventure to watch. But also when she gets eaten by the space slug, and then like spit out, like I just thought that was really funny.
Oh, Anita.
I should have been high when I watched this episode because I
know what?
I just
it's not too late.
it.
You can rewatch it. No, I did like the humor. Like I said, it started to wear on me a little bit after a while, but I actually checked myself because I was like, all right, we get it. You're doing this jokey stuff. Like this is not, and I'm like, of course this absolutely is Star Trek. Like from the very beginning, original recipe, there were these moments of just like kind of goofy humor.
Tribbles.
That's part of it. Yeah. This idea that everything has to be like dark and ultra gritty, that is not Star Trek, but that's very much the kind of like, version of our media that's consistently what's on offer. This like, this blue lensed, kind of dark take on everything. And so it was a nice lightening of the mood. And I also think like, this is a show, like I can imagine sitting down and watching this with my nephew who's 10. His birthday's tomorrow, by the way.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Tatum. But I can see him watching, like he would enjoy this, Yeah. And we look down, I think, on stuff that like families can watch or that young people can watch as well as adults, as if they are somehow lesser. In terms of like their artistic merit, and that's bullshit. Like sometimes things can be lighter. That's totally
most
great.
of us, like a lot of us, watch Star Trek as children,
Yeah,
as kids too. But it's a different show now, right? Like, Tatum might be super into this episode, but like there probably are going to be episodes that are not appropriate for his age. Like just for example, another moment that I thought was really kind of sweet, even though like the episode didn't really earn this, but I went with it in a way that I don't usually with this show, I think. And so when he asks, when Book asks, oh my goodness, Book asks Michael, how much did you leave behind? And she says 930 years and like, why or whatever to ensure a future. And he says, thank you. Like, I was touched.
I had many feelings during this episode and I just had to roll with it,
It was really like he just like, I think that honestly, they just didn't have time for this, right? But like, honestly, he would have been like, what do you mean you came from the future? I mean, from the past or whatever. Although maybe that's not so weird because they established that, time travel existed and then it was outlawed. So it's not super weird to him that this could have happened. But just that, like, thank you for like leaving everything behind for us was really sweet.
Do you also get the sense that Book knows more than he has currently told her? So at the beginning, he's talking about how she looks like a relic because she's, wearing a Federation badge or a Starfleet badge, like, excuse me, the true believers. And you think he's very dismissive of it, and then later brings her to someone who is himself a true believer. There are just hints throughout this episode that maybe he knows a little bit more than he's telling, or that he's got a sense of things. And so when he said, like, thank you, it made me think, like, is there some legend about Michael Burnham and the crew of the Discovery that his, like, secret gang of freedom fighters and animal rescuers knows about, or something,
or some prophecy or some bullshit?
Yeah,
oh my God, this show would totally have a prophecy. Oh, it's gonna ruin itself by doing that.
Listen, don't jinx us, Anita.
Okay, let's talk about the end.
Okay,
so this is going to be my biggest critique of the episode, and what I suspect is going to be a big critique in this season. I am blanking on the man's name that lives on the ship. Do you remember his name? You said it at the beginning of our episode.
Oh, Sahil. Sahil. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. Sahil is committed, is a quote unquote true believer. His father and his grandfather and his great grandfather have all, I don't know why it's a fucking paternal lineage in this future where gender doesn't matter, but whatever, have committed their lives to the Federation, even though it's dead. And so, like, we see the contrast of, like, he wakes up every day and he does the same thing, and he's been doing it for his entire life. And so when Michael shows up, it's like, holy shit, like, there is a reason that we have been doing this. It was really emotional, right? Like, Michael's like, yes, I will hang this merit badge on the wall, right? Like all of this, and like Sahil having this moment of, like, oh my God, there are others. It's true, whatever. Kind of like what you're implying with this, like, prophecy idea. I am implying the prophecy based on yours, but, like, look, I don't know. I actually wrote super emotional, but, like, kind of dumb. Those are the exact words that I wrote, because here's the thing, and I don't know what the analogy is, so maybe you can help me figure this out. But like, the Federation and Starfleet are military state-run systems that, like, what does it mean to be a true believer of a state?
I am so glad you brought this up. Okay, so this has been something that has consistently bothered me throughout Star Trek, but particularly in these new versions that we're getting, the slippage between the Federation and Starfleet. Now, this is not like a perfect metaphor here, but please, y'all who are listening, just give me a little rope, okay? It is as if we equated the United States with the Navy. Starfleet is the peacekeeping and exploratory arm of the Federation, but it is not the sum total of the Federation. And so when we are told that the Federation does not exist anymore, you can see the sadness and, the despair that someone would feel, thinking that, okay, this amazing collective and consortium of different races and peoples and species that came together to, celebrate life and, seek out new life and new civilizations. Like, there's something horrible about the fact that that has gone. It is not necessarily a bad thing that Starfleet is gone, but the two things are collapsed in on each other. So when Sahil says, like, would you do me the honor? I'm not a commissioned officer of the Federation. And she's like, I can, think of no one better, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, but this is different. It's one thing to be holding out hope for the return of the Federation. It's another thing to be holding out hope for and to equate the Federation with Starfleet. And that's tremendously problematic for a whole host of reasons: colonialism, imperialism, law enforcement. Like, there's something weird about that. Yeah. And at the same time, that dude was acting his ass off. I was with him.
Was so good.
He was so good. I mean, when Burnham's like, would you be, acting communications officer, blah, blah. And he's just, I felt things, y'all. I'm uncomfortable feeling things, but that dude made me feel things.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying is like, it was super emotional. It was so well done. And I was also grossed out. And I really like the way you're talking about it as slippage because I've been doing it this whole episode. I've been using Federation and Starfleet interchangeably.
We all
and they're
do.
not.
And I think deliberately, the show encourages that kind of thing.
Yeah. And like, it just feels like, I don't know, people who collect World War II like iconography or collectibles or whatever. Like it just, it's like, that cool, I guess. Like it's kind of gross, whatever. And so there's something here of like, yeah, like if you are a true believer of this thing, like it has to be that like the world, like everything has fallen apart and gotten so bad because I don't know, dilithium exploded or some shit, which probably Discovery had something to do with, I guess. And then there's this prophecy maybe that I've just made up. And then like there's no one around to enforce the Endangered Species Act. That the Federation is a vision and all those who believe that vision, like they're talking about it like a fucking cult in a lot of ways. And I don't like it. Like and the whole season is probably going to be built around this of like, them being this ragtag team of people trying to find Discovery. They do or they don't. I don't really know what this season on was trying to show us. And like all the people who don't believe them and think that it's bullshit, right? Like I feel like it's going to be this sort of like kind of underdog, we are going to secretly save the world for you type of tale, but based around this like the glamorization and romanticization of military.
Yeah, and I mean, my question when Book said like the Federation is no more, et cetera, I was like, so I wonder if we're going to get to see what has replaced it, if anything. And also, we can't forget that the Federation is not this all-encompassing, like galaxy-wide institution that everyone buys into. What about the Romulans? Like, did they swoop in and sort of, pick up the pieces? What about the Klingons? Are we going to get any Klingons?
Yeah. If the Federation is gone, there will be a power vacuum.
Right.
Who filled it?
Exactly. And so I hope that we get more of that. And to be honest, I am encouraged by the tone of this first episode that there are, smart people working on this show who might be willing to tangle with some of these issues. I mean, God, I hope that someone in some episode is like, okay, so the Federation is gone and Starfleet is gone. Let's rebuild the Federation because we loved what that stood for. But is Starfleet necessary? And if it isn't, why have we embraced this notion of exploration or whatever? Like I would love to have more wrestling with that because it's by no means necessary that if you have a collective like the Federation that a peacekeeping arm, the Space Force, like Starfleet has to exist, but in our limited imaginations, they must. And I say this, y'all, like I know y'all are getting your Starfleet fan fingers angry to tweet at me. I love Star Trek, okay? Like, I have a comm badge. Like, I'm into Starfleet. I had contained multitudes, is what I'm saying. At the same time that I am fully on board for this version of the future, there is a part of me that's like, okay, we need to question some of our assumptions.
Wait, are you saying that it's possible to be critical of the media you love?
I'm saying it, Anita. I don't know if people are willing to go with me on this journey.
I'm here with you. You're not willing to go with us on this journey. Oh, burn.
Oh, boy.
What do you have any thoughts or feelings around like this season on?
I am wondering how and when
Michael braids her hair.
Oh no! Okay, listen, we're saving that for the hair report because I do have some things to say. But no, I am wondering how and when Burnham will be reunited with the Discovery crew.
Yes.
If like, is that going to happen later in the season, like towards the end? But until then, we'll have Discovery doing their thing, and Book and Burnham doing their thing. Which either way, I'm fine with. But I hope we get lots of Doug Jones. In this season. Yep. I, of course, hope we get lots of Tilly. I'm not going to lie to you. The woman, the young Starfleet officer who was given Tilly the business about living in a museum. You know, she's like, this is like a museum or whatever.
Right.
I was like, okay, this better not be like a Cousin Oliver situation where you get like, you know, like a young, cute kid for comic relief here, because Tilly is enough for me in that
Tilly's
role.
all the
I
comic
love her.
relief we need.
She is everything. But otherwise, yeah, I'm like I said, I can't say enough about. I'm excited. I can't wait to watch this week on week. I cannot wait to listen to the Star Trek Discovery recap free cast with you and special guests all season.
Yeah. I don't know. I am sincerely curious whether like that's the big question that you just posited. Like, are they going to meet Discovery sooner or later? Like, is the whole episode about finding them? Is it not? Because I think, if I remember correctly, like they don't show Burnham with any of the Discovery people, and they probably do that on purpose, right? In the recap. The two notes that I made around this season on was Michael's braids and Mike kissing book. And I was like, cool. You're better tasted men from the last time. Perfect.
Yes, like, getting better. Our girl is getting there. Do you want to talk about those braids?
I am dying to talk about the hair report.
Okay.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. I'm dying to listen to you talk about the hair report because I suspect that there's a lot happening in this episode. There's some like curly cues that are in different places at different times. Like, what's going on, Ebony?
Okay. I will say this. The wig that Burnham is wearing in this episode is definitely of higher quality than she has worn before. They have worked out some of the hairline issues in the front and the back. The hair texture itself seems more uniform in a way that I think more closely models actual human hair. But having said that, it still sits on her head like a cap. And there are times when I'm like, that shit, I bet, like, could pop off at any moment, right? And it just, I am excited and grateful that we're going to be getting different hair for her. I have loved her with short hair, but that look, and we know the reasons why, like on a real life plane, why Burnham's hair looks the way it does, right? And why she's worn a wig. It's that we still do not have nearly enough hair and makeup folks who are union, which they would have to be to work on a show like this, who can do black hair, you know, not just like black hair and makeup artists, but even like, you know, non-black hair and makeup artists who have been trained to do black hair. And so if you don't consistently have access to those people, you often, like, the actors have to take care of their hair themselves, which is bullshit that they have to pay money to do this when white actors don't have to do this. But also people will, you know, use wigs because it's like, it's a way to maintain consistency from scene to scene if you don't have someone who can work on your type of hair. Okay, whatever. We acknowledge that. The wig is better this season. I'm glad for those braids though. But I am wondering, who is doing homegirl's hair in the future? Okay? Like, I love those braids. But I'm like, where is she getting the Marley hair for those?
And where does she have the time? What the time to get those braids?
Listen, you know, it's the future. I'm assuming that, you know, there's some kind of high-tech genius bar machine.
Do they dissolve like the bed?
Braids, you know, but we have talked before, and I have definitely talked with, you know, some of my friends about Burnham needing to get braids, and we were like, if she would just let Owosakun do her hair, I bet Owosakun has got like a thriving hair business on the decks of Discovery. I'm sure every time she pulls into port, she's like, I'm going to get some Yaki, I'm going to get some Marley hair, I'm going to get these extensions, whatever, and I'm just going to be hooking up my sisters on this ship. So I'm wondering, are Michael's braids meant to demonstrate that she has been in the future so long? Like, are they going to try and lie to us and say that her hair grew that long and she's been braided and she braided it, you know? Because no, okay? Like, no. Or are those extensions? I just want to know. I want some rationale for that hair. I love that hair, but I just want to know what's going on in 31 and 88 for her to get those individuals. Hit me up if you know anyone who has answers for me, because I absolutely love it. And I know Sonequa Martin Green was probably like happy because, you know, you just pull those back, pull it in a ponytail, you're good to go. day by day. You're not having to worry about a hot wig. So yes, girl. Hair report, I'm giving it a full Ebony seal of approval.
Wow.
For future episodes, not this episode. Again, that wig, whatever, is better, but I'm still not into it.
I hate
for what is coming, yes.
God, I hate that wig so much. Like, Sonequa Martin Green is beautiful. She's probably pull
gorgeous.
off like every fucking hairstyle known to humans, but that wig is just the worst.
And not into it.
Yeah,
not into
no.
it. Yep. You know, I
right.
need to do a hair report for The Haunting of Bly Manor because the actor who plays Hannah Gross, I'm just like, please, can we just get more women with shaved heads? She is exquisite.
I just watched that today.
Exquisite.
She is exquisite. It's true. So if I cannot convince Ebony to record little hair reports every week for us, you will just have to save all of them for the last episode.
I will, but you know where I bet I will be giving them? I think I'll be making a return to our Feminist Frequency Discord. And I will be dropping hair reports in there. So if you have not tapped in to our Discord, but you're a patron, you're a supporter, you need to get into it, baby. I'm going to be dropping knowledge weekly.
Would you like to let our listeners know how one might get into our Discord?
Girl, do I look like I know? Carolyn handle that business.
No, if you become a patron, you have access to our Discord. So if you want to learn more,
I thought you meant like the logistics of it. Like, you go to this link or whatever.
I fully teed you up to do a nice little promotional. And
I don't know why you thought I could handle that.
I don't either because you clearly can't. You're like, talk to Carolyn.
Yep.
You can learn more at patreon.com/femfreak or hit us up. But all our patrons have access to the Discord. And it's a lively, hopping little place. So, all right, let's wrap up with our ratings for this episode.
Yeah.
Ebony, Adams.
No, the script says Commander Adams.
It doesn't. I'm not saying that.
Girl, you wrote the script.
I didn't. I copied your script from 2 seasons ago.
For real? Oh, you cheater. Okay. I am going to give this episode, I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it 8.5 dilithium bars out of 10.
I'm giving it 16 dilithium crystals.
Got it. Okay,
because I really enjoyed this episode, and I am fully grading on a curve at this point. Like, that's just how Star Trek is now. But like, I had a lot of fun with it and felt feelings with it, and like, fuck yeah.
I'm so happy about this.
Me too. I was actually like, God, I hope you don't hate it because that's gonna be awkward. Which is actually usually me that hates it, but still.
Yeah. We're in love with this, and onward.
Well, thank you for joining us on the first episode, Ebony. I appreciate your time since you're such a busy lady.
Oh, as if you're not. But yeah, I'm going to miss all of y'all, and we'll continue to love talking about this show on Twitter or Discord with you. And I will be back for the finale.
Yeah, sweet. All right, y'all. That is it for this week. Join us in 2 weeks when we're going to be joined by Jara Hodge from Women at War podcast, which is a great Star Trek podcast, and Sarah Goldie, who's the creator of the Star Trek Quarterly zine, which if you check out a zine from months ago at some point, I don't know, this was like forever ago, I wrote my very first fan fiction, and it's in there.
And it was amazing, and I believe there is some amazing fan art
of
us.
Is amazing. The fan art is of me and Ebony and Rafi
getting space high.
Space vaped. Yep, getting space high. All right, well, join us for our great guests next week. And again, if you want to help support the show or check out our Discord, please head over to patreon.com/femfreak. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Bye.
Bye.